Hi everyone, my name is Limor Bergman Gross. I led engineering organizations and I didn't have AI when I was leading, and now everyone has AI. And this talk is actually not about how to use AI for productivity and to save time and all that. It's about how you as a woman, as a leader, can be more relevant, more influential, seen as strategic leader, and how to use AI to help you with that. I led engineering teams and organizations for about 13 years, and I didn't have AI as a thinking partner. I made a lot of decisions. Some were good, some were not so good. I had some mentors and coaches, and obviously the managers that I worked for, and they supported me, but it wasn't always enough. And the exciting thing today is that you have something I didn't have. You have AI as a thinking partner. There's one thing though I want you to remember: AI cannot replace you, cannot make the decisions for you, and I want you to use it as a partner, not to replace you. And there are two words I want you to remember from this talk: influence and trust. And those two words are, or can be, in cases that I see as a coach, the differentiator between who is getting opportunities and who is not. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So, what AI can do for you, you probably know. AI is very, very valuable, and I actually use it all the time. I use multiple tools. I use it in my coaching practice. I use it for my podcast, and it is wonderful. And I wish I had it when I was leading. But what is the challenge? So many leaders who come to me for coaching, in many times they tell me, I am stuck. And I wanted to share things that repeat themselves. Not every client, is the same, but there are patterns that repeat themselves. And those patterns are, they get feedback that they are great at execution, but they need to be more strategic. They need more influence. They need to be able to navigate ambiguity to get to the next level. And the challenge is that they are optimizing for output. I was like that as well, right? As engineers, we know how to write code and execute, and the challenge is that we have to shift that mindset as we grow into leadership. And, leaders that come to me a lot of times are optimizing for execution, for output. They ship features, they meet their OKRs, and their team loves them, but, they're still stuck because leadership is measured by influence, visibility, other things that they're not really optimizing for. And that's what we are talking about today, and I'm hoping to help you. So those are the things that AI actually cannot do, or it cannot replace the human interaction. Because as a leader, you probably know that you need to identify challenges with people that you lead and people that you work with. And it is even more complicated when you work remote and you don't see those people every day in the office. Who is burned out and not saying anything about it? Who is being overlooked? Maybe there's some friction and maybe people don't feel heard. Maybe there's some cultural barriers, right? We work with people globally. I just had a client last week, she's working with, with some peers in a different country, and she sees how they operate completely differently. And we talked about the cultural differences and how they think differently. How do you build influence through relationships? And you build trust, which is, built over time, and not just focus on execution. And I'll tell you something, the real decision makers a lot of times are not your direct manager. And AI cannot do all those things. Only people can do that. And I just want to share a story about a client. Obviously, I won't share any personal stories, but let's call her Sarah. And Sarah comes to me and she said, I'm stuck. I'm stuck at a director level. I've been doing it for 3 years. And Sarah was excellent executor, respected by her team, but she was not clear why she's passed on for opportunities, why she's not advancing. And we started talking about it and we found several things. She wasn't clearly identifying the decision makers for her promotion, right? And as I said, you cannot just rely on your manager. We talked about built trust and she gained trust. But when we mapped what the senior leaders really trusted her with, they trusted her with execution, not with vision. So they were making decisions and handing to her to execute. And we talked about how she can influence that, how she can influence decisions instead of just being handed decisions to execute. And we started working to identifying who are the actual decision makers, not just her manager. What do they actually care about? It's not just the OKRs. What are they afraid of? What is keeping them up at night? As I said, what do they trust her with? Maybe what they don't trust her with. And we started laying that all out. And, it turns out that there are two senior directors, like kind of peers to her, that she barely interacted with. And those were very important stakeholders. And she needed to start working with them. And then we started talking about, okay, now that we identified a challenge, how do we actually solve it? And that's what I kind of wanted to share with you, how AI can be a strategic partner and help you with that. Sarah, we worked on all those things and she started building relationship with those senior directors, not just asking for things, but offering her perspective and, being visible for someone that thinks strategically, that can be a partner to them. And another thing that I see a lot of women do, and I did that too, she stopped waiting. She stopped waiting for permission, for being invited, and she started creating those discussions. She started, bringing ideas and, inserting herself and making an impact. She made some decisions and started collaborating with another organization and navigating it directly with those leaders. And eventually she was promoted, but it's not just about a promotion because she did an excellent job already. It's about how she was perceived and she demonstrating operating at the next level. And this is like something that I also faced myself. You are being promoted when you already prove that you can operate at the next level, not when you execute and operate great at the current level. And I've been burnt with that myself, and I want to encourage you to think about it too. And how you can utilize AI to do all that. You can utilize it as a partner, not to replace you. And this is a sample prompt about mapping stakeholders, right? You can tell AI, I am a director trying to do XYZ, influence that person, give it context, and AI can try to help you identify decision makers, can give you some ideas, maybe things you haven't thought about. And once you identify those people, you can continue chatting with AI about what they actually care about, what they trust you with, what they don't trust you with. You can kind of use it to pressure test ideas. For example, based on this stakeholder, what would concern them about my proposal? If I were this person, what would I need to hear in order to trust me or to trust that decision? And you need to show up differently. You need to be visible and don't wait to be invited. Start creating visibility by providing different thinking, by providing a different perspective, not just by your output. And, one of the great managers that I had, the greatest manager, told me something I will never forget. So I was relatively a new manager and I was second guessing myself all the time. And I had an underperforming engineer. And I was second guessing myself. Maybe I didn't give that engineer enough chance. Maybe something is wrong with me. And when I consulted, with my manager, he told me something I will never forget. He said, Limor, trust your instincts. And that's what I want to hand over to you. Trust your instincts and use AI to support your instincts, not to replace them. So you start with your instinct and you pressure test with AI. This is a sample prompt. I believe we should do this and this and this. I believe this is the right decision. Here is my reasoning. What am I not considering? What am I not seeing? What would someone disagree with me? Play the devil's advocate. And this is wonderful. AI can really help you criticize your decision and play like different roles. Another thing is, how do you differentiate yourself, right? Because you want to be seen as a true leader, being trusted with making decisions, with creating strategy and so forth. So ask yourself those questions. Am I being valued just for output or for influence? And do senior leaders seek my perspective, or they're just seeing it as an executor? Am I visible in my decision making, right? I need visibility as well, not just to do the work. Not just that people see the results, they see how I think. See how you think, how you operate, how you make decisions. Can someone replace me with better AI? Hopefully not. Hopefully that's not the case. AI can make you faster, but leadership is about building trust and influence. Here is a sample prompt. I need to build trust with a specific person who currently sees me as a great executor, but not a strategic leader. What are some small, consistent ways I can change that? And, you can share what you're currently doing, and AI can provide you some ideas of maybe what you're not doing, so you can differentiate yourself. When I was a leader, I didn't have AI. As I said, I made decisions a lot of time in isolation. And today's leader in you have something I didn't have. You have an incredible thinking partner. So remember that. Utilize AI as a partner, but not to make the decisions for you. AI is a tool, it's not a strategy. And leadership is all about building trust. And what differentiates you as a leader is making a judgment call, influencing, building trust, and those are built through human relationship, through understanding people, not just data, through being visible in your thinking, not just your output. So use AI to amplify your thinking. Don't let it replace your voice, your judgment, your leadership, because everyone has AI. But what differentiates you and leaders who rise to the top are people that are trusted to make decisions when it's hard. That's what leadership is, and AI cannot replace that. Thank you so much for listening, and start leading.